a lot of the clients that I work with, I either work with them in terms of increasing performance from the level they're currently at, or I acquire those clients through like an injury that they've had, and then I take them through rehab into performance. So that's where these conversations kind of stem from. The first one is a client that came to me initially for just chiropractic care, had like an ankle injury, a shoulder injury that was long-standing, high level, like D1 collegiate athlete, had an undiagnosed labral tear, one of the shoulders, like a really bad ankle injury that required surgery earlier in life. She's now like mid-30s, very strong, incredibly strong for her size, very athletic. Kind of bounced back and forth between like old collegiate strength and training programs, got into CrossFit, enjoyed like the competitive nature of it, got hurt doing CrossFit, came to me through that. So worked with her for a while through chiropractic, got her feeling good through passive care, kind of opened the door into active care, and now we've been training together for a while, probably about a year or so. And we've gotten to that point in her training career where, again, like I said, she came to me strong. I didn't necessarily make her strong. She was already strong. She just didn't have a very good concept of how to use her body, how to brace her core so that she can use her hips well, how to maintain a stable rib cage so she could use her shoulders well. So we did a lot of kind of front end learning and rehab type work there. And recently what happened is that we went through kind of a shift in her program, moving from more so kind of capacity building and like higher output to more stability and unilateral focus. And in that, one of the movements was a leg press. And like I always put RPE in her program. We've had conversations around it before. But there was a disconnect in kind of the thing that I was saying and the thing that she was hearing here, or the thing that maybe she was hearing it, but she was putting into practice. So went from bilateral leg press to unilateral. Tried to just half the weight that she was using, because she's like, I do X weight bilateral, so I'm going to do Y weight, which is half of that unilateral. And just kind of having that understanding, like, okay, two is twice the amount of one, so I could do twice the amount of weight, right? That's how that works. That's not how that fucking works. And the thing about this is, even if that was how that works, that's not how this works on a given specific day, depending on the variables, especially with a change in program intention, where now we were doing a lot of externally stabilized things to now requiring a lot of lateral hip stability, unilateral hip stability, core stability in the exercises. So, and these are things that we had conversations around, but people only understand this to the capacity that they can implement it, right? It's someone that I don't work with exclusively one-on-one. I write her program. She does it the majority on her own. She'll come in and train with me, maybe once or twice a month. Cool. But in that first week of the program, she tried to go too heavy because she had this understanding of, okay, I did this weight bilateral and leg press. Now I'm going to go unilateral and I'm going to do half that weight. And it was too heavy, and she didn't hurt herself necessarily in that set, but it did overstress areas that she was already coming into that session with a higher level of fatigue. Her hamstrings, her adductors, because we're training those to a different capacity than we were in that last phase of training. So then what happened is she was warming up the next day, just doing like body weight walking lunges, and that adductor and hamstring just spasmed up on her, and she couldn't even go through the session. And that lasted for like 2 weeks, and it really inhibited her training in that time. And the core of this, the reason that this happened, was because, no matter how many times we have the conversation, no matter how many ways I say it, it only matters as much as they are willing to implement it on their own, right? And that's a lapse in communication on my end, or a lapse in follow through on my end, because she still didn't understand that RPE isn't a specific weight. It's a rate of perceived exertion on a given day in a given set in a specific environment. So we went through. She came in. We went through an assessment on it, and it didn't seem like there was any muscle damage there. It was just a lot of muscle guarding, muscle tension because of higher level fatigues in areas that were lower or like undertrained. So the conversation then became, okay, like why did this happen? And the root of it is that there wasn't necessarily an understanding of how to progress from one week to the next, from one exercise to the next, or how much effort she should be putting forth. So I'm like, okay, I know how we can solve this. And the way that, my previous attempts to communicate this in the past, clearly they had failed because she didn't understand how hard she should be trying or how to modulate effort on a given day, on a given exercise. So we did, I don't have a leg press in my gym. So we did, a warm up to make sure she was feeling good that day. No issues. Great. So I took her into some walking lunges to start. And I kind of explained the idea of, I explained it both ways. RPE is like, maybe we want to be around 7, 8 for this. So 7 or 8 out of 10 in terms of effort. Okay. Or 70 to 80% of maximal effort. A little bit abstract. Got it. Also explained the inverse of that, reps in reserve. Some people, their mind works better that way. Mine doesn't, but if it does for you, that's great. So 7, 8, like I want you to be able to do 2 to 3 more good reps when we finish this set. I want to call it quits when we have 2 to 3 more reps in the tank. Okay, cool. So I have her do a set body weight, and I said, all right, what RPE was that for you? She said, I don't know. It was easy. I'm like, yeah, you're right. That was very easy. We can't even assign RPE to that. But then I gave her a set, and she's strong. We'll do walking lunges with like 2 75-pound dumbbells. So I gave her a set of 25s. And I'm like, can you assign RPE to that? She's like, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5. I'm like, cool. All right. I gave her a set of 40-pound dumbbells. Had her do another set. Can you assign RPE to that? Maybe 5, 6. Cool. Awesome. And then gave her one more set. I think it was 55s. And she's like, I don't know. It's kind of the same. Like, we'll call it a 6. All right. So what I'm teaching her there is that understanding that the same movement against more load will increase rate of perceived exertion. Great. And I think that's the understanding that most people have. But most people, it starts and it ends there, right? So where this went next is that, okay, now you feel how adding weight to a movement makes it harder. You have a higher rate of exertion, and you feel like you're trying harder with more weight. Now we're going to do the same thing. We did 4 sets total of Bulgarian split squats with a contralateral load. So 1 dumbbell. She just had 2 55s in her hand doing walking lunges. Great. So first set, I'm like, all right, you're strong. Let's start with the 25. I want you to do 10 reps. Same thing. Asked RPE, maybe 4 or 5. Great. Let's go up. I gave her a 40-pound dumbbell. It's like, okay, 10 reps. Great. All right. 5, 6. Great. We go up to a 55. 10 reps, 5, 6. That kind of felt the same. Okay. Now we've gotten to a point where increasing load is not making this harder for her. So what I did is like, okay, now the issue in the past was that the way that you made this harder, the only way that you would progress was grabbing bigger and bigger dumbbells. And like, I don't even know. She's probably done like 100-pound dumbbell contralateral load split squats. That's fucking strong for anyone. I don't care who the fuck you are. Like that's difficult. If I have her, the only way to progress is now grab a 110, a 120, a 130. Like that only goes on for so long. But she's at 55 pounds now with an RPE of 6. So what I did is I told her, this next set, I want you to think of the same thing, of how hard this is, But what we're going to do is we're going to do a 3-second eccentric, a 1-second active pause, and a 2-second concentric on every rep. That's a 6-second rep with no rest at the top. So we're talking at least a minute locked into this set. 55-pound dumbbell, we go through, I count out the tempo, I tell her to slow down when she stops pausing at the bottom. We make it, to the T, holding that tempo. She's struggling to complete the last rep. I told her, I'm like, all right. Well, I asked her, what's the RPE of that set? She's like, that's a 9-10. Like I could do one or no more reps. I'm like, all right, cool. You understand now. And then from that point on, that's a common ground that we have now established that, hey, like, I know you can go heavier. I don't want you to go heavier. I want you to slow this down and make this the RPE that's in your sheet, right? I want you to take a 55-pound dumbbell and I want you to make it hurt like a 130-pound dumbbell would in this movement. And that's something that, face to face with the client, there's no escaping that. It's like, no, remember that time. And once they feel this thing, once they feel like you did 2 sets of 10 reps of a Bulgarian split squat with the same exact weight, but one was twice as hard as the one before it. And that's something that's tangible, something that they can remember, that now, okay, the thing is, they're not going to get hurt now in terms of going on their own and doing this, because I don't think anyone's ever gotten hurt with a 50% maximal load with an excruciating tempo, because the absolute load is much lower, right? And the benefit of that is with a lower load and a longer tempo, things are going to break down very slowly, right? It's going to get hard relatively quickly, but as things start to break down in terms of technique, in terms of stability, in terms of output, it's going to happen over the course of, even if it's one rep to the next, it's happening over the course of a painfully slow 6-second rep. As opposed to with a 130, if something goes wrong from one rep to the next and no tempo, that's going wrong really quickly. And that's going wrong in the way of, at best, reactive muscle spasm like she's had in the past, but at worst, a muscle strain or a ligament sprain or something that is an actual injury that now we have to account for that in training. So I found that to be a really impactful way to teach her, okay, we can make this harder without adding more weight. So that's one thing. That's one conversation that I've had just this past week, and kind of the whole context around it, around getting someone to understand how to modulate intensity devoid of increasing load, right? It's if the overall goal, and like I don't even know if I mentioned this, her overall goal isn't anything competitive. It's to be healthy, not have pain from her previous injuries, and just to be strong and functional. Right? So there's no need to really increase maximal load. Like, why would I do that if that's not your goal? I'm not going to overexpose you to risk or expose you to, unnecessary collateral on training if that's has nothing to do with you accomplishing your goals. So now I can make you have a really bad time in the gym. You can have a really hard workout, but you're using much less weight, so you'll be able to recover from that a lot faster. There's going to be a lot less collateral in training, and it's something that is much more progressible than just adding another 5 or 10 pounds on a dumbbell week over week.